First and foremost, we want to touch on what's going on with Brother Love, as we call him here in New York, Puff, Puff Daddy, also known as P. Diddy, um, also known as the man in the hot seat in this moment right now, because of some interesting habits, allegedly. Um, I would like, if you will, Your Highness, to share with us. You seem to have a very interesting history with Mr. Combs that started very early on. Can you share with the kingdom what your early history with Mr. Combs was?
Well, actually, I grew up with P. Diddy as a child. Um, be- Before I elaborate, I want to make one thing clear. We're not a platform to drag or pull down anyone. We all must work out our own sins with fear and trembling. So there's at no point that I am trying to be on the bandwagon that is going on or take part in that or anything like that. I wish nothing but the best for my brother. I wish that God comes inside his spirit. I wish that he himself, like us all, seek repentance and find his way to Christ the correct way.
Well said.
So, with that being said, I do know Sean. um, it's a funny story about me and him because he would actually be the first person that I've ever met in my life named Sean. And I was so young. He's about 6.5 to 7 years older than me. So his mom, Janice, um, she was in the neighborhood and um, she used to do my mom fingernails and, stuff like that. And that's how we actually met. So I would say approximately maybe 5 years old. I was in my room one day and my mom called me out the room. I heard company in the living room. And she calls me out and I come out to the living room and I never forget, it was a lady with blonde hair with long fingernails. I had never seen anything like that. It was, she was the first person like looking like Little Kim, and this is about 1980. And I came out to the living room, and she was there, and a little boy was there, which, as who we know now as P. Diddy. So my mom said, "Hey, come here, I got a surprise for you." So when I came out, I'm looking like, what's the surprise? What is it? So she was like, guess what his name is? So I'm looking like, how am I supposed to guess what his name is? She said, his name is Sean, just like yours, spelled the same exact way. So that was the first time that I had even heard of anything like that. This is how young I am. I didn't even know that there could be people with multiple names. So I'm like, that's my name. You know what I'm saying? How's his name? How's his name Sean? That's my name. So that was like a big surprise. So as the adults do, they send us in my room to go play. So at this time, he must be between 11 and 12 years old. And that was the start of our relationship. My mom regularly got her nails done and stuff, the diva that she was. So me and him probably had experiences every week or every other week with his mom coming over and bringing him over. So immediately, I remember looking at him, and he was kind of stiff, straight and narrow, you know what I'm saying? And he was older than me, you know, and I didn't, again, growing up, have much interaction with the kids outside, you know, so I wanted to impress him. I wanted to, be friends and, have someone that I could, you know, play with and relate to. Now that I'm older, I understand that our age difference was kind of, a gap. So with me being more excited, he was probably more disinterested.
Because to him, you're a little kid.
I'm a little kid, and he probably didn't appreciate having to be sent in the room to play with me. Now, growing up, my parents, the strict Christians that they was, I didn't have the popular toys. Like whatever the toys that all the other kids had, G.I. Joe and all, G.I. Joe was really big back then. G.I. Joe and all of those other action figures and toys. I didn't have those type of toys. They would get me, the toys that they chose that wasn't so popular with the kids. So my thing was when we would go in my room to play, starting from the first day, I would, try to present my toys to him, which again, now that I'm older, I realized that why he was disinterested because he had passed that phase in so many ways.
He
But
was
he
in a
was
different stage in his development than 12,
absolutely,
13.
yeah. So he would come in and, play with me and, because that's what he was sent to do, but he was definitely disinterested, never looked at my toys as anything. And, that's basically what it was. Mind you, again, I'm a child, so I'm like 5 years old, so a lot of memories back then is blurry. But there was this one time that he came over, and I can't remember what toy it actually was, but I had got a new toy, and I was impressed with it. And I thought that, maybe I could impress him now with the toy. So when he came in my room this day, I'm just excited, because I have this toy that I'm thinking that I'm going to finally impress him with. So I showed him the toy.
Do you remember what the toy was?
I can't remember the toy. Very blurry back then, but I know it was a toy that I was impressed with, that I was hoping he would be impressed with. So when I showed him the toy this day, he looked at the toy, and before he was definitely disinterested in any of the toys that I had, but it was something about this toy, which I think it was supposed to be popular, but maybe it was the uh, generic version. I think it was something like that, because even if my parents tried to get me the latest toy, it was never like, if there was G.I. Joe, they would get me the other ones. There was always the toys that was up under the main thing that you could get from a much less price. So I think the toy was something like that. And I was so excited, and I showed him the toy, and he did take interest. And I was so excited he took interest, because that's what I was hoping. And he took the toy, and the way he took the toy, he took it, and he was more so examining the toy, and he was examining it in a rough way. So he was like, so from those motions, as a child, I already felt something. I could already feel something in my spirit that he's being rough on my toy and he's not appreciating it. So I asked him, give me my toy back. He didn't give it back to me right away. He kept looking at it, in a rough way, checking it out, looking at it. So I might have, expressed again, give me my toy back. At this point, he took the toy and he shoved it to me. And when he shoved it to me, he hawk spit on me. And again, as a child, memories are very faded at that age, but not that one.
That's very clear.
That one lived and always was clear in my mind because it might have been probably my first violation. Just how he was the first person I met as Sean. I didn't even know what spit on you was, but as a child, I knew he had violated me. I knew, something
foul had just taken
foul
place.
had just taken place. And that stayed with me, in my mind, forever, But fast forward to the future.
Go back. Did you tell your mom?
No. My mom was I could tell that at a very early age, I was already protecting my mom because my mom was a very tough character growing up. My mom was a really no-nonsense person. And as a child, I had already witnessed her, being no joke. My mom was the type that, she'd punch men in the face, beat them up.
Carried the blicky and the Louis.
She carried the blicky and the Louis, the long mink jackets. My mom, the neighborhood feared her when she walked through the neighborhood, much respect, and I already, as a child, had something in my mind to protect her and probably not tell her everything, So no, I didn't run out to the living room and tell his mother or my mother. I just knew he did something wrong to me and it was inside of me. And, I probably swallowed it down because I was only 5 years old, 6 years old.
You showed them grace.
Yeah.
Because factually, they would not have left that apartment.
Absolutely not. If I would have ran and I would have told my mom that happened, yeah, it would have broke loose in a really bad way.
They may have left, but they wouldn't have left in the same manner in which they entered. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely not. So, I ignored that. And he might have came over, maybe some, times afterwards, but that day, clear in my head, never, the day we met and that day, clear in my head, like, any day that I live right now that was imprinted on me, imprinted on my spirit.
Can you recall what it was like the next time you saw him?
No, because as I said, the next time it might have not been that way. It was that day that really imprinted in my head that that's what he did to me.
Fast forward to closer to the adult present. Have you seen or interacted with him as an adult?
Well, when actually he became successful in the music career, I didn't even know who he was. It was my mom who called me in the room one day with one of the videos on. I don't know if it was the Biggie Smalls video or something like that. It might have been Biggie. My mom called me and my mom, said, pointed out to me because she was proud of him. Again, she never knew of any vow situation like that. So when he became successful in the music career, my mom was proud. And not only that, the part I'm skipping, we're even more connected. As you know, as I explained to you, I went to private school all my life. So his godmother was my kindergarten teacher. So that's even more, connected to how we were. And my kindergarten teacher was almost like my godmother. So I even think that's probably how my mom got connected to his mom. You know what I'm saying? Through probably her. So again, when he became successful and he was making videos, my mom pointed out to me one day, she said, "That's Sean, the one you used to play with here on the floor. They grew up in this house with you playing on the floor." And I was actually excited. I'm like, "That's Sean, that's the kid, that, I first met, named Sean, that used to come play with me." Now, again, never expressed to her, even as an adult, what happened, that stuck in my head. But, you know, I was actually excited, that he was in the music business because, at that time, I had been in the music business for a while, with dreams of becoming a rapper and writing songs and doing all of that. I was doing that from 8, 9 years old. So when I now fast forward in the future, see him and my mom is pointing out, that's him. It was something unbelievable. I'm like, wow, that's him. I'm like, wow, that is him, And I'm like, how could I bump into him? You know what I'm saying? Like, I could rap as good as Biggie. I could, I could, do just as good, but I never crossed paths with him during that time. It was no way to bump into him, or anything like that. I didn't have an angle on how to get to him. At the time, his godmother had moved to Florida. She moved to Florida when I was really young. So by the time he became successful, she wasn't there to where I could run to her and get the direct connection to him. So it was just one of those things that, if I could ever see him in some type of way to let him know, hey, it's me, and, I have talent, too, I would, I could rap too. I had already came to a point of forgiveness, which I need to make that clear, um, I realized that, again, he was maybe 11 or 12 years old when that happened. And what that tells me is that if he could have done that to me at 11 years old and I was only like 5, that is something much more deeper going on. It's something much more spiritual going on with him. And it probably did not, there's no probably, it didn't start as an adult. If he was an 11-year-old and could do that to a 5 or 6-year-old, something was going on. What I will say is that he was privileged. Not that I wasn't. I was a privileged child too, but he was privileged in a different way that I was. I was privileged because, yes, I went to private school. My parents took good care of me. I didn't know anything. He went to private school and was well taken care of and didn't know anything. But the difference with me and him was his parents bought him the good clothes. He had the designer clothes, and he obviously had the popular toys. Those things my parents wouldn't give me. Those things they taught me later on that I had to earn those things. Those things was not things that they would buy me. So I realized that that was the gap in between us. Both privileged children, but in different ways.
There's different steps and progression of privilege. There's the privilege where you have access to education that is structured in a manner that really promotes your success, and access to opportunities that are not afforded at a free education level. But there is still a parental structure in place that it doesn't incite a sense of entitlement and an appetite for cruelty to others. Oftentimes, parents and their children will invest significantly in their children when it comes to education. And in those private environments, you meet other privileged children who may not have the same family structures, who are rewarded for everything, for every smile, every gesture, every conversation. They break wind. It's just amazing. And that builds up an ego the size of cathedrals. And when you're at the top of the cathedral, it's very difficult to keep your feet on the ground. You start to literally feel, I'm not at the top of the cathedral. I am the cathedral, you know? And if that is the mindset of a child, that doesn't go away. We are who we were even when we were children.
Absolutely.
We may evolve in certain ways. We may grow in height. We may grow in
Tell
stature.
you that all the time.
You do tell me that all the time. I'm still the same, just a little taller.
We make characters.
Yes.
We make characters to cover up who we really are.
Right.
But the spirit that God usually gives you as a child is usually the person that you really are. And sometimes you make these characters to cover up that person, to protect them, or whatever it might be. But I'm a strong believer in the character that we have as a child. It's who we are.
It definitely is a part of our blueprints. And it sounds like Janice and the other adults in his life, Miss Janice and the other women in his life, the other parental figures in his life, really fed certain appetites and certain ideas, and that developed into certain behaviors, and those behaviors developed into certain actions and thoughts. And it's just amazing that that experience, you fast forward that into 30 years in the future, and just some of the things that we're receiving now in the news and in the media. But for us in New York, we were hearing things way before mainstream media was even interested in Puff. For one of the ways he became in the spotlight in main media was the City College incident. That's what introduced that name to the world. And even then, I don't think the mainstream media knew who Puff was to us, to our generation. This up and coming mogul, this party promoter, that was throwing all these really, really great events, from New York to Washington, D.C. I don't think they knew that part. What they knew of this horrendous, horrible tragedy that took place at City College, and how did this happen? Who's responsible? Whose name is connected to that? So I think we watched this snowball effect, unfold before our eyes. And it's now because of YouTube and social media and things like that, people are now so interested, in honing in on things. Have you seen him recently? Let's say within the last 3 or 5 years, have you seen him?
So as I said, even the years I watched Biggie, I watched childhood friends like Mace, Cameron, and these guys get put on, I knew at that point that I knew him, but never could run into him. Not to skip over that city college thing. That was a terrible day in my community in Harlem. That day I was on my way to the city college event.
As was I.
And
How amazing is that?
yeah, I never forget that. And
Pause. Without a ticket, ladies and gentlemen, my bestie and I were on our way without tickets because we were those girls that was getting in. We were going to show up, hi, and be let in. And we were literally outside, like, okay, what's taking us so long to get in this place? We saw the FOI, we saw the dogs, we saw all of that, and we're like, what is going on? This is supposed to be a college event. Why is this so hectic out here? The atmosphere that day felt so chaotic and thick outside. And we couldn't understand what was happening. For me, when I see FOI, I get relaxed. Like, oh, they got it. You know what I mean? Whatever craziness might be brewing, FOI got it. Shout out to FOI.
absolutely.
But it seemed that day, there wasn't enough to get things under control. The crowd outside was, it was like a Roman arena day, and it wasn't late. It was early in the day, so it was very strange that that was happening. So from the outside, that's what I saw. We never made it inside. Rest in power, rest in peace to all the lives that were lost that day. You were on your way as well, my dear.
Yes, so that day, I I guess, that's God always over me and protecting me
Always.
during my life. So I was supposed to have left much earlier that day. And, me and my bestie at that time set out to go a little bit later, and I never forget when we came outside and walked up to the corner to get ready to go, because, it's only a few blocks from my house. All of Harlem was screaming, people in the street everywhere was screaming and crying. And we like, what's going on? What's going on? And they told us that, at City College, people done been trampled and people done died. And, this was just tragic. Now, at this time, I didn't know Sean Combs had anything to do with it. He hadn't yet grown to fame on the camera yet, to where
Right.
my mom could point out to me that that was my friend. But I didn't want to blaze past that situation because that was an impactful day to my community in Harlem. I remember going to the corner and everywhere people was walking around crying and mourning, and me and my bestie at the time was actually getting ready. We had got dressed up, getting ready to go there, and we stopped dead in our tracks with the news of what happened.
That was God.
Yes.
That was God because we also arrived a little later. My bestie and I, but we arrived before the tragedy. We arrived as the inevitable was happening.
Whoa.
Slowly but surely, it was happening. We could see outside just how disorganized it was and the diligence of the security that was there, just trying to get a grip of it. We left because it was very clear to us this is getting a little crazy. It doesn't look like we're getting in. We don't even see our contact people. We are people. We didn't see anyone that we were familiar with. And once I observed FOI was backing up, I said, okay, let's just, it was still early in the day too. So it's like, it's not a big deal, it'll be another event, and we left. So I think we were both and it's just so amazing that we were both there. I don't think you knew I was going. I definitely didn't know you were going. But I give God all the grace and praise that both of us were deterred
Absolutely.
from that, because it could have went very differently. So you didn't know he was a part of that event. I didn't know the name Puff Daddy. I seen it on a couple of flyers, for different parties I had attended, but in my mind, and I'm sure a lot of other New Yorkers' mind at the time, at our age group, this is just somebody that's throwing parties. We didn't know anything about the backstory, the music, the production, things like that. So, when was the next time you encountered him?
So as I was saying, I had envisioned in my mind many times of running into him, but my life had derailed around when Biggie Smalls and all of and Mace and Cameron and all of those guys came out. As you know, I was a different person, and I was living a different life at that time. So I had no interest in chasing superstars in no type of way. I had already lived that life. Like I've told y'all before, I was bodyguarding top celebrities already at 14 to 15 years old with the FOA. So I had already passed that, and past thinking that at that time that rap music could produce any substantial living situation. I had already was over that, and I had already was living a different life. But while I was living that different life, I still had in my mind, if I could run into this dude, maybe my life would change. Maybe, I could run into him and let him know, hey, it's me. And he'd take him to me and we bond and, that I could enter back into the music career. But no, that never happened. When was the next time I seen him was quite an experience. So, nameless the person, I was someone who I was in business with, not even business, I could say, someone I was a friend to most recently, had a revoke deal that he was supposed to be getting. And he had a revoke deal that was supposed to take place with Puff. And we went to the meeting. Me and him went to the meeting because me and him was like brothers at the time. We were brothers, still are brothers, regardless. But we went to the meeting to go meet with him. Now, that was his day to shine. That was his day, to try to, get his revolt deal or etc. So when we went someplace downtown or somewhere, and he had a big, huge bus. And this bus was like, oh man, the most amazing bus I've ever seen. This bus was like a house, man. It's not a regular bus. It was something else, like this thing was huge, and when you get inside, had everything in there, like set up like almost like a real house type thing. So again, me playing my position, I didn't come there, to ever try to overshine my brother, you know. So I'm always standing in the background, quiet, non-speaking person that I am. So they told him to come get on the bus to come meet with Puff. So when he got on the bus, his security came out and said, no, Puff want me to get on the bus with him, come too. Which I was standing outside the bus, playing my position, making sure he's safe, that he's secure, and, everything like that. And they called me inside the bus, said, no, Puff want you to come on the bus too. So when I came on the bus, the bus is full of people, you know, it's, you know, all his entourage, everybody like that, people moving around doing everything. And he's sitting way in the back. And when I got on the bus, he immediately looked over at me and he jumped up and he walked straight up to me. And that was like amazing because again, I'm not there to try at that time out again, and this was recently, so I'm not there to try to steal my friend's shine, you know. That was not my intention, not my desire. When I got on the bus, he looks over at me, he gets up out his chair, comes straight over to me, and mind you, the bus is filled with people. And he comes up to me, he's looking at me, and he's staring at me, and he comes up and he sticks his hand out to shake my hand. And I shook his hand. And when I shook his hand, we held each other's hand, and he held mine. And he said, "What's your name?" I said, "My name is Sean." He said, "That's my name." And I just smiled. No, I didn't tell him who I was. No, I didn't tell him, "Hey, guy, that's how we met." I'm Sean from Delano, you know what I'm saying, that used to play with you on the floor of my house. But again,
That wasn't the space.
that wasn't the space. I was there for in support of my friend. And I don't know if I know he probably didn't know who I was, and I know he'll probably see this and he'll probably be like, "Damn, that's what it was." But he knew something.
There was a familiarity there.
It was something. He knew, yeah, he knew something because he, you know,
Just couldn't
yeah,
put,
he just,
couldn't give it a
probably
name and a
couldn't,
date.
he just probably couldn't put it together. Now he will. It was me, you know, but I wasn't there to steal the other guy's shine and tell you, "Hey, Puff, it's me, let's, I let it go.
What are your thoughts on with what occurred with Miss Cassandra and the filing of the lawsuit and one of the fastest settlements in the history of civil lawsuits in New York State? What are your thoughts on that?
Cassie, I want the world to understand this. When they say money is the root of evil, it's tricky with that. It's not so. If you haven't triumphed over sin, if you haven't completely let Christ into your life, and believe me, I know people say Christ is in their life and this, that, or the other, but it shows in your actions because as explained to you, to be a Christian is to be Christ-like. And if you're not being Christ-like, you're not a Christian. So when you allow, not when you allow, when money comes into your life, sin is like an appetite that cannot be fulfilled. So if you are already living a sinful life or already somehow trapped within sin, and you just happen to get a lot of money, what do you think happens? It increases sin because now you have more access to make that come into reality. The vile, vicious ungodly things that we all think about sometimes, you have access now to bring that into a reality. So that's why it's very important to be careful what you wish for and to be careful of your steps, because when you when you are in sin and you get money, it only increases and it only gets worse. And when I think about that, I think about how I looked for him those years, how I wished that I had came across him in those years. And I was in sin. I was in sin in those years. So if I would have possibly been successful to encounter him, who knows how the sin inside of me would have increased. So when I think about him and I think about those things, which I wasn't there for the Cassie situation, I wasn't there for any of those situations. I could only express to you what I've already expressed to you of the person that I did know. I could see how that child could possibly progress into the man that y'all know now as P. Diddy. And my heart feels somewhat sorrowful for him, as it does any man, because Jesus came into this world to save the sinners. He came into this world for those who are lost and are in darkness. So when I see stuff like that, that let me know, man, my brother has probably been in darkness for a long time. And he's probably been misguided for a long time. And this goes beyond the man, it goes to the child.
Hmm. Powerful. Doesn't go to the man, it goes to the child, because the child is still within.
The child is always within.
Mm-hmm.
The man masquerades over the child.
What are your thoughts of T.D. Jake's name being diluted into this situation?
It upsets me when I turn on the TV, the YouTube, and the different channels, and they say, oh, you Christians are looking bad, you know, and they put those two together and they don't, again, get it. Many will come in my name and say, Lord, 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 haven't I testified in your name? And he says, I know you not. Again, I know nothing personally about T.D. Jakes. Um, but him as being a man of God, supposedly, he know the rules.
Hmm.
There's rules to it. And you know what the rule of a minister is and a bishop is? You must be blameless.
Hmm.
You must be blameless. So when I watch these things with him and these things that he's associated with, I think that somehow he's created this for himself, and everything that's in the darkness will come to light.
Hmm.
I don't sit in judgment of him because I have to work out my own salvation with fear and trembling. I, as any other man, wish that he could find his way if any of these things that they're saying allegedly is true, find his way to repentance and check himself because that needs to be checked. And he needs to understand that if you are the minister, if you are the minister of the Lord, do you know what weight that carries? It is you that is going to be held in judgment. The people would die in their own iniquity, but the weight would be held on those who God put forth to minister to the wicked of their evil ways, that thou shalt surely die. So when I watch T.D. Jakes, I just want the world to know that again, you can't associate and say you Christians are looking bad because if he is not living as a Christian, he's not a Christian.
Period. Do you believe he should continue this damage control campaign that he started with first making a statement in regards to the allegations being made against him as far as some form of adultery, his loose associations in atmospheres that you wouldn't find a minister or a voice of the good book in parties and things like that. I think it was a party in particular that they seem to be highlighting that he was in attendance for? Or do you think it would be best for him to be silent and step down and do some searching, some repentance, some reflection?
Again, a minister must be blameless. A bishop must be blameless. If what they're saying is true, he is holding a position that he should not be in. And repentance is always the key for all of us, you know. I've heard him say, oh, I never told y'all I was perfect. No, 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 no. As a minister of the Lord, as a bishop of God, you are supposed to be perfected. It's a difference between perfect and perfected. But once you pick up and hold that stance as a bishop and as a minister, you are to be a husband of one wife. You are to be blameless, not given to alcohol, several things. So, yes, I think that he should reflect and reconsider his position.
Does that include stepping down or just leaving the public eye?
Again, I would say that if you're holding that position as a bishop and these things are true, absolutely you should step down. Absolutely you should step down because you're now making a mark on those that rightfully hold that title. And you're having the people in the world confused because this is what we have to go through because they're going to point at you because you are a spokesperson. You are one who have been set forth in front of the people as an example. And if Satan could tear you down and make mockery of you, to make mockery of those who really come up under that, look what you've done. This is exactly why the scripture says a minister must be blameless. Not that you have lived a total perfect life, not about that. But once you take that pulpit, you are supposed to be perfected. Another thing about being in those parties, I wouldn't say a man of God wouldn't be there because I would. But as you saw on the platform that I was on, that was like a party of godless, people that did not, follow scripture or believe in anything like that. You would see them laugh at me and argue with me all the time. Did you ever see me change my position? Did you ever see me, try to duck around the truth? And that's what a minister would be doing in those type of places. So if he was at those parties, where the people at that's saying, whoa, 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 or where the footage at, of him in the park, hey, girl, you, put some clothes on, hey, you, hey, what you saying in that song, hey, what's going on over here? They'd, probably kick them out, you know what I'm saying? Or we gotta get rid of the minister. He can't, we gotta get, him up out of here as
He's spoiling the fun.
Exactly how has been done to me in many occasions.